Yeah. There you go.
Yep, we're good to go.
To go. Okay, great. Thank you. Right. So welcome, everyone. So this is to all the attendees of the Environment Committee and also to anyone watching from the public. Welcome to our March 2nd meeting of the South Glengarry's Environment Committee. I hope everyone's doing well this evening. So Crystal would have sent out the agenda as well as the minutes from the previous meeting and also the regional waste management phase 1, phase 2 draft report. So I hope everyone received that. So we'll start off with approving the agenda. So does anyone have any additions or changes that they would like to the agenda for today?
We're good. Or I'm good, sorry.
I think so. So if someone could move to approve it. Okay, moved by Michael, seconded by Angie. So all in favor?
Scratching my head, but yes.
Oh, sorry. Okay, scratch that. Seconded by Colleen.
I don't scratch my head off camera.
Okay, so we're all in favor?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, carried. Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so the next item is approval of the minutes from our February 2nd meeting.
In the attendance, I thought Mike Madden was vice chair.
I think you're right.
I'll make that amendment and
Is that right, Mike?
Technically, yes.
Yeah. It's nice try.
I didn't notice that. I went through
Good
it. I didn't, no.
Oh, I noticed.
Goodness. Oh,
Oh.
okay. So any other
I mean, we can make the pitch, Angie, if you really want.
No, we're good. We're good for now.
any other promotions or demotions that anyone has noticed? I mean, I read through them. They looked okay to me, but does anyone else have any comments or?
I thought they were
catches?
fine. I didn't see anything else.
Okay, great. Okay, so someone could move to approve the minutes. Okay, moved by Aiden. Someone could second it. Mike, seconded by Mike. And Angie's just waving. Gosh, what am I saying? Is everyone in favor of
Yes.
approving the agenda? Yes, perfect. Okay, carried. Thank you. All right. Okay, so then the next item is business arising from the minutes. So first item was food cycler. So I see it says presentation to council on March 15th. So I don't know if who can give us an update on that from staff, please?
I'm going to give you the update on that one. So Alex Heyman, who presented to the group 2 meetings ago now, will be coming with a presentation to council on March the 15th, based on the recommendation from this committee. And he also mentioned when I was speaking with him that there were some questions that came up when he was doing his presentation that he'll be addressing in the presentation to council. So if that's okay with everyone, that's the update.
Right, I'm excited that that's going to happen and happening fairly quick.
Yeah, Alex was very eager to come. So yeah, it's nice next council meeting.
Any questions from anyone on that item?
Nope.
Okay, the next one in business arising is bag limits. I see it says update, so does that mean we have an update?
The update is there is no update. Yeah, there's been no movement, but and it kind of coincides with the waste composition study. It's still not complete. So I think once that report or that study is available, we'll have a better idea of where council wants us to go with bag limits. So that's the non-update update.
Okay. So can you go a little bit more in detail on the waste, the waste composition study? What's the timeline for that? Because I think we thought, well, I don't know if I don't remember how detailed it was in terms of when we would be getting more information.
So the last update that we got was that it should be ready mid-March. So we should have that study by, I guess, the next meeting in April.
Okay. 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 And so that would go the way, how's that gonna, so they're gonna complete the report, and it's going to be presented straight to council and we would get a copy, or would it come to the environment committee, or?
That's a great question. I might not have the perfect answer. I don't know what the process is typically for these types of studies, if they go to council first or they come to the environment committee. I don't know if Kelly can maybe answer that, or Chris, but my understanding is that it would go to council first.
Okay.
Mhm.
Chris?
Yes, that's my understanding also.
Okay, that'll go for, okay. Okay, and so I guess if it goes to council first, then I guess if council could request that it comes to us for comment potentially as well, I suppose. Oh, Kelly would like, yeah.
Sorry if you don't mind me jumping in for a second, but yeah, if it goes to council, they can refer it, or I guess defer it to the committee for comment or suggestions. So that's always, committee or council has the ability to refer to the committee for advice or comment.
Okay, okay, all right. So guess we'll have to wait on that, wait and see on that one. But yeah, I guess I can certainly see why it would make sense that would be informing the bag limits. So maybe question for you, Chris. So one of the items that Ewan had undertaken, like related to sort of the bag limits, was sort of an overall sort of review of our situation, and we was going to use the waste composition study as part of that review, obviously. But it might be too soon for you, having taken over this file entirely now, but do you have a sense of when that might be something you're reviewing, or?
Yeah, I'm planning to review that once I receive the study.
Mhm.
I'll have a review, I'll take a look at it, and right now, like you said, it's kind of preliminary for me right now.
Yeah.
But I will review that once I get the study.
Do any members of the committee have any questions on these, I guess basically the two items? Oh, Mike?
I think pretty much any decisions to be made are going to be dependent on that study.
Yeah.
And a theme that, as far as bags or capacity or future considerations, it's all about what's being generated and what's being collected, right? So I'd say that's quite primary in terms of what's needed to move anything forward.
Yeah, makes sense. I see some head nodding on that point too.
Yeah, you pretty much hit the nail on the head with that.
Okay, well, we'll wait. We'll wait patiently. But we're looking. You can tell our committee's really looking forward to this.
Well, I would request that we get a copy as soon as we can.
Yeah.
I mean, whether council wants to review it before it comes to us, or if they're fine with it coming to us at the same time.
Yeah.
I would prefer as much time to review as possible these days.
No, I understand.
But yeah, the other trick is, I mean, we have these reports. We don't have too much information in them. We can talk about it after, but it might not be necessary to do this every month. We might be on every 2 months, just in terms of getting information so that we're we're being effective and efficient with our time.
Yeah, absolutely. That's fair. Yeah, I think we were hoping for this meeting. I think we were hoping that that we would have some information already from the composition study, or trying to remember, yeah, or maybe. But no, sorry, I'm sorry. The purpose was for more to review the regional waste management, the first phases. Sorry, but yeah, for the next meeting, we'll have to, once we get to when we plan out our next. We should definitely keep what you're saying there, and Mike, in mind, making sure that we have enough material to have some good discussion.
Are these two studies kind of like working off each other at all? The waste composition study and the other one, that's
The regional waste management one?
Yeah.
That's my understanding, but I don't know if everyone else is doing one. Like, I don't know if it's township wide or I mean, all the townships within SDNG are doing it, or it's just us.
I think it's just you guys.
Okay.
Do we know, Crystal, do we know who's doing the waste composition study?
You give me 2 seconds, I don't have the name at the top of my head, but if you give me 2 seconds, I'll come back with an answer.
Okay, thank you. They're pretty, as much as they're the same, they're exclusive things in that you're looking at, what households are generating in South Glengarry versus the other one, which is looking at all of the municipalities and potential to move forward together, right? So I'd say they aren't necessarily playing off of each other. It may come into play in the later phases of the regional one, which would be good and obviously smart to do. But I guess it depends on what went out in the RFP for the waste composition study. Because we didn't see that, right? This was at the request of council. This wasn't generated from us.
Yeah, it wasn't. The waste composition was not generated by us. I think that I forget the details. It could be that it was something we did on a certain frequency, like every 5 years or not. But I mean, when it comes to the regional waste management project, that's not like, we don't know what the outcome of that might be. It could be that there'll be a lot more regional working together, and it could be that there'll be not. So I think regardless, like, this is important information, right, for South Glengarry to have, to know, what we
absolutely
plan on doing.
Well, and I think it's absolutely required to inform programs. I mean, if you're looking at reducing bags, if you're looking at improving recycling, if you're looking at potential anything for organics, I mean, even the food cycler thing would be dependent on this, right? You need all of this information to inform any kind of decisions like this.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the waste composition study is being done by Stewardship Ontario. I'm not sure if anyone's familiar with that, or even if Chris, yeah.
No, I'm not familiar with them too much. I've met the workers themselves. I'm not really familiar with the program as of yet.
Okay. Are there any other comments on the waste composition study, or? So the next point is recycling coach / access E11. So last time, I know it was brought up, that you need, we'd seen, like, through social media that Cornwall had updated what they would take into the recycling plant, because for some time they had stopped taking plastic bags because there was no market for them. And then we saw on social media that they were saying that they were taking them. So, that spurred some questions from our group to understand, well, what's allowed, we assume here in South Glengarry, since our recycling goes to Cornwall, that we should follow the same rules. And then to find out, like, how can we improve getting that information out to our residents? So I don't know what the /access E11 is. So is that something new?
So the Access 311 is similar to Recycle Coach, but I think it might have some more capabilities. So at this time, we're doing the initial research for both of them, and it's something that administration is kind of looking at to provide through our website, just like the city of Cornwall. I believe Recycle Coach had made a presentation to council a number of years ago. Stephanie, I don't know if you remember that or if that was before your time. So the Access 11 was brought to my attention by our GM of Finance, and he said it would be worthwhile looking into it. So it's just another option that we can have in terms of providing information to our residents on their recycling program. So like I said, we're in the initial phase of that, in the research phase. So I don't really have much to share other than that it's on our radar, and it's kind of part of our modernization and e-commerce goal is to have those accessible services to our residents.
Crystal, is it Access 311 or E11?
I thought it was E11, but
Okay.
maybe I misheard and it's 311.
Okay.
But I believe it is Access 311.
I just looked it up. It's E11.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
E.
Right.
Yeah.
You said E like the letter?
Yes.
Yep.
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so how about like in terms of like up until these systems are like either chosen or not chosen, like when it comes to sort of pushing out information to the residents, like what's the process, or have we changed anything to the process? I noticed that today there was a posting that clarified more about the plastic film issue and what specific was what we could put out. But I'm just wondering, is there anything on the process side we're waiting for results from these reviews? Has anything has changed or?
There's nothing that's changed in terms of process. I think social media is our biggest tool right now in terms of getting information out there. And our recycling calendar, we've talked about because our contract comes up. Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but in December for our waste, our collection. So like we have our collection calendar that goes out, and I guess we're talking about if we want to do that for a full year, 6 months, just because of the changeover. But otherwise, yeah, we're just trying to be active on social media when changes come up, or things need to be communicated, and our website as well.
But in terms of being notified, like I felt like the perception, at least on my end, was that we were a bit out of the loop, at least from like the information coming to us from Cornwall.
Yeah, I can't speak to any changes at this moment, but if it's something that you want us to look further into, for sure, I'll note that in the minutes and follow up with follow up with is it Murph? Is it like the recycling plant?
Yeah.
If there's
Murph,
changes, and is that what you're referring to, Stephanie, mostly?
Yeah. I'm
How to
looking at
get the information out?
Yeah.
Because I mean, I get it from the city of Cornwall,
Mm-hmm.
and then I spread the word that way. So instead of doing that, it'd be nice to get it directly from South Glengarry.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, because this was something we had discussed at the last meeting, was just like, how do we make sure that information is going out, in a prompt fashion.
Yeah, because a lot of people didn't know about the plastics.
Yeah.
Out of curiosity, would it be out of place to advise on social media that they can get this Recycle Coach app and check Cornwall? Because I'm looking at the Recycle Coach website, and I looked up South Glengarry, and all they've got is personalized calendar pickup and event reminders for South Glengarry. But then Cornwall, of course, they've got everything other than campaigns. So people, if they have questions, could easily go on and look. You don't always necessarily want to direct them to a neighboring municipality, but in this case, they're handling the waste, so they've got the info. at least people would have somewhere to go that would be current.
If I remember, I think there was an issue with that. We're not technically, we're not a licensee of Recycle Coach. Like South Glengarry hasn't, paid the license fee to technically use it. So I don't think
But Cornwall has.
they have. They have.
And our recycling goes there, so.
But I noticed in that report, there was 2 other townships that said that they advertise Recycle Coach for their recycling. So
Yep. It was South Stormont was one of them, right?
I think so. Yeah. I forget
But
the other
are they
one.
publicizing Cornwall's Recycle Coach or their own?
It didn't say.
So Stormont is the same thing, personalized calendar, pickup events and reminders.
So they must be sending their recycling to Cornwall too then.
Well, I think 4 of the 6 are sending their recycling to Cornwall.
Okay. So if they, and you said they publicize Recycle Coach, so then they're probably telling you to maybe go on Cornwall's?
So Dundas has everything.
Oh, it does. Okay.
South Dundas. Oh.
So does North Dundas.
All right. So time to move up in the world here and get on board.
So does North Stormont.
Yep.
North Dundas had their own system, I thought, or they don't go to Cornwall, right?
Who's that?
North Dundas doesn't send the recycling to Cornwall, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where do they send it, do you know?
I believe they send it to Brockville.
Where?
Say that again,
They
Chris?
send it to Brockville.
Oh, okay, yes.
I still feel we're always the last to join in on these things.
Well, as far as Recycle Coach goes, it's a 3-and-3 thing in the municipalities.
Yeah, if you go on the South Stormont website, they have an option to download the Recycle Coach app. So I guess that's how they're.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I think this had been, I think, our hope from our last meeting, right? Was that there would be some, research and seeing how if staff can look at how we can better get the communication out. Because I think the consensus is that we feel that this is a gap. Like, the consensus of the committee is this is a gap, that the information is difficult for the residents in South Glengarry to get. And, and that looks like there's tools out there. I mean, certainly speaking for my opinion, I think if we don't have a Recycle Coach, at least we have to be more aggressive with how we use social media, or somehow link in with whoever is doing the social media for Cornwall, and to let us know when it's related to waste, make sure that we know so that we can, at a minimum, just do like a copy paste, right?
I'll look into that. I'll ask the crew in the city of Cornwall there in the environmental department.
See what the. Yeah, because congratulations.
Thank you.
Oh,
And
Was
just
that- Oh, I got hired at the city of Cornwall as their sustainable projects coordinator.
oh, nice. Good for you. Congratulations.
Congrats.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have the in soon.
you'll be able to get us all the recycling info.
The black market.
But I mean, yeah, so I don't know how I don't know how we handle like communication when it comes to this particular file, but
I mean, there's definitely, I think it's clear that there's room for improvement on our end to either put a bigger push on Recycling Coach or 311. I mean, or like you said, communicate with whether it's the city or at the county's level to get that information out sooner. So, or quicker or louder. So, yeah, I can commit to definitely looking into that before the next meeting and hopefully maybe we'll have it up and running by then. I don't.
But even like the post that went up today, right, where it lists the recycling and trash, what of the plastics, the plastic films, like that post got 23 shares and a bunch of and 11 likes, which although that's not a huge amount, but that for the township post, that's a lot actually.
And sorry, where was that posted? On the South Glengarry Facebook page? Or?
Yeah.
Yes.
Media,
yeah. It went up this morning. It was at 9 hours ago. So
that was probably off of what Cornwall posted, right?
Yeah. It's the same.
Instagram. Do we have Instagram?
We do.
Okay.
I can't say I'm on it very often.
Because that's where I see most of the Cornwall stuff is on Instagram.
Is it? Okay. Well, I don't know. So
on the municipal website, you have a primary tab at the bottom. Second one beside burn permits is garbage and recycling. You've got a pretty decent PDF, the single stream acceptable mixed recycling guide. So I'd say, as long as that's kept up to date based on what Cornwall's doing, you've got it immediately available for taxpayers. And if you did a regular post on Facebook or whatever other social media platform, whether it's once a month, once a quarter, excuse me, just to remind people, that spaced repetition is going to help a good bit as well.
Yeah.
I think if it's like a change like the plastics, it took us forever to find out about that. And then I think that stuff, nobody goes on, it's not nobody, but not a lot of people go on websites anymore. They just scroll through their phone on in social media. So I think when it's like immediate change, then I think it should be sent out right away. So then we feel like we didn't know that. And it's been like months.
Yeah.
And this doesn't, I'm just trying to see, it doesn't include the plastic, so it definitely needs to be updated.
Yeah.
The PDF.
Yeah. Good catch. Yeah, it's not.
Because I think it's fantastic that we are recycling plastics. So I think this should be, publicized a little better.
I think it's consensus right from the group that we would like. I think we'd like that to be reflected in the minutes. That we would like there to be more
community engagement.
Yeah, community engagement.
Big changes like that. Yeah.
Timely information sharing using, social media and updating the website.
So we have Access E11 at the counties, and I've only seen it as more of like a complaint tracking system. So I'm not sure what it's capable of on that end in terms of sharing information, but it doesn't mean it's not possible, but I've never seen it for that. So
you said that was Access E11?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's much different than Recycling Coach.
Yeah, I don't know all the capabilities of it. A lot of companies like that kind of branch off and do different things for municipalities. So unless they are going a different way to help them kind of like create dashboards and help people like the public see better, maybe. But I've only seen it as a complaint tracking system.
If I can add to that, Colleen, their webpage says easy to use and quick to implement. Access E11 is the municipal government software of choice for code enforcement, citizen request management, and citizen issue tracking.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's different,
Yeah, pretty much as you said, it's more complaint based than information sharing.
And there are quite a few townships that have it as well. But using it for the same thing. So
interesting. I'm not familiar with it at all. Any other comments that folks would like to be reflected in the minutes on this topic, or? We get to the, okay, alrighty then. So, last item, essentially, effectively, the last item of substance is we have the update on the regional waste management project. So at our last meeting, Ewan had circulated the draft, the phase 1, phase 2 draft report. And he'd asked that we read through it and be ready for this meeting to provide some comments on it. So before we start discussing it, I don't know if anyone from the township staff wanted to provide any comments or updates on that process, or.
Excuse me. The process was overtaken by the counties. They were the lead on this project with the 6 municipalities within SDNG. And the study, I don't recall who did the study overall. I can't remember at this time. Anyway, it's a draft, and
Does DFA Infrastructure International, is that what?
Yep.
Thank you. I believe there's 2 more phases to go with this also before it's complete. I'm not sure what the timeline is. I will familiarize myself with this shortly. I believe there's another meeting coming up at the end of the month. For phase 3 and 4.
Do you know if it's like they plan on that's when they plan on issuing the phase 3 report, or is that when they hope to have all our comments in for?
I'm not really sure at this time, Stephanie. I think it's basically the phase 1 and 2 to close it, and phase 3 to continue with phase 3, I believe.
So, I mean, speaking for myself, when I first, I didn't read to it till more recently, and I had assumed that the report that we were getting was actually going to be something that had like recommendations and whatnot that we had to consider more closely. But it's very much like right now, it's really just a collection of all the information of all the waste and recycling programs from across SDNG. So I thought it was very interesting. So I don't know if, I'll maybe open it up to folks if they have, if there was any specific things that caught their eye or that, they were like more information on.
I thought it was interesting to read how other people are doing their system and whatnot, like their bag limits and stuff like that, but I don't really have any say on, I didn't really get the gist of what we were supposed to go with it. There wasn't really much of a plan kind of coming out of it. It's what I took away from the paper. I could be wrong. The waste management's not really my expertise, but.
No. I'm in the same boat as you. I'm very much like, wow, this is a lot of information, very interesting information, but I'm certainly not in a position to be able to look at that and go, well, I think I would recommend based on this, that this is what we do. Certainly. How about you, Mike?
Same thing, a lot of information. I mean, the expenses that, the comparison of expenses between municipalities was quite interesting. The staffing between municipalities was very interesting. And really, I mean, unless we have a full grasp of this information already, I don't think there's that much for us to comment on, because we'd essentially be correcting their information gathering. To my mind, this is going to inform their phase 3 and 4, which is really where the meat of this is going to be. My expectation, I think it was mentioned that they were collecting comments for 6 or 8 weeks. So I think we're probably coming to the end of that. I imagine they would probably finalize this for the end of the month, maybe have a draft of 3. I see Tim popped up. Tim may have information to correct me on.
I would never correct you, Mike. It would be the other way around.
Plenty of people do, Tim. Please feel free.
I do have an update because I don't know if Stephanie, you or Mike got any updates from Tim Simpson through County Council. Okay, so just bear with me because it came yesterday. So the county is working with the consultant to complete the study, and he summarizes the main objectives. Summarize and compare solid waste program delivery costs for the 6 lower tiers, looking at cost saving and efficiencies through internal process changes and common levels of service collaboration between municipalities and regional collaboration, and to provide recommendations. The most important part of the email, though, is that he notes that individual costs have been finalized and some broad concepts have been identified, which you were just talking about. Now, the consultant's looking for input and ideas from the municipalities. The plan is to convene a special meeting of County Council. So we're going to find that out. I think it's the end of March. Kelly, I know you're online there. If you heard anything from Kim Castleman, the clerk of the counties, about the special meeting? Or
yes, so she, I believe, is she reached out to the county clerks. I believe it was March 25th that they're looking to schedule that meeting, but nothing has been set in stone yet.
okay. So at the meeting, local councillors would have the opportunity to participate. It's going to be virtual, so it'll be live. So any committee member there or anybody that wants to tune in. And they're going to go, participation will be necessary through County Council to go through the procedural aspects of the agenda. No decisions will be made, but the meeting is to be hosted for information only. So
So it might be worthwhile for members of our committee, if it's being broadcast live, to have
once we get the information, we'll send it out to the committee so everyone's aware. The other thing is, depending on how this goes, it's envisioned that we will, the counties will similarly reconvene in the future to have additional discussions with everybody's participation.
Okay.
That's what I have.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
we'll be copied on an email letting us know about when, like a link to the meeting.
Sure.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
We'll even invite people from the city.
Hey, I live in South Glengarry.
I know.
So one thing that, and so I'm not entirely, so I guess, Chris, you'll be providing feedback on this report, like on phase 1, phase 2 on behalf of the township, or would it be Tim, or? Because basically there's one thing that when I read through this, they make several statements about how South Glengarry's landfill is going to go to X date. And then after that, it's going, the assumption is they'll be closed, and it's going to go to a private landfill. And I think you might want to feed back to like DFA that's not, I don't think any decision in that regard, no decision in that regard's been made. I think there's, potential that certain sites could have expansions potentially, and that probably should be reflected in this base data that they have. At least that's my understanding of where the situation is in South Glengarry. So, and it might, I'm not entirely sure how that impacts their numbers, because, maybe it's the cost of the private landfill comes out to the same as if you expand your own. I don't know, but I think it's something that, they refer to it a few times in that report, and I don't think it's correct necessarily. And so I think that should be fed back to them. But
Okay, so I'll through you, Stephanie, then I'll review it with Chris, and certainly we'll provide our input response. We'll also take anything that the committee has as suggestions too.
okay, thank you. So Any other comments of, folks looking through the document that they wanted to share?
I found it just as interesting, I think, as everybody else. And it did really outline kind of how far behind we are in terms of the bag limits and there are some municipalities doing weekly recycling, stuff like that would be nice to get to eventually. But I mean, it was an interesting document for sure, but yeah, it was more informational than anything else.
I
haven't
was,
finished it yet, so maybe at the next meeting I'll have something more to say, but I haven't had time, to be honest. But I will have more time in the coming weeks, so I will have looked at it the next meeting.
I would, like you, Colleen, I was surprised by how many already have weekly recycling. I didn't realize it was that many already. I thought, like, when people talk about, oh, we could have weekly recycling, that's like, ooh, that's like avant-garde to have weekly recycling in a state. It's not. And I was also surprised, and I think that's something that would really be well received. I mean, and when it comes to cost, that's a different discussion, but definitely I think that's something that would be well received. And I think we've talked about this as a group before. Recycling would be.
Yeah. Yeah, we talked about having weekly recycling and bi-weekly garbage.
Yeah. I was also surprised by, like, I didn't realize how many were doing some of this collection already in-house, and how, like, I think it's actually the majority are doing recycling pickup in-house, I think.
What do you mean? Sorry, Stephanie?
As how many townships are actually doing, like, waste and recycling pickup in-house, and that they're not, that we have a contract in South Glengarry, we contract the pickup for both waste and recycling, but many townships in fact do it themselves, which I was surprised by. Like for waste, North Dundas and South Stormont do in-house waste collection. And for recycling, North Dundas, North Stormont, and South Stormont do in-house recycling collection.
Have you got that in a table, Stephanie?
Yeah, that's well, like, for example, if you go like on page 21, table like 3.1 and 3.2, they break out the unit cost like per household, but they have it as in-house and contract, and so you can kind of quickly see who's in-house and who's contract for those two items.
They outline the roles in the appendices as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
A
Right,
point
jump
I was
in
going to
there,
make about the weekly recycling. You'll see that it's 3 and 3 basically, right? That are doing weekly versus bi-weekly. And the ones that are doing weekly are doing double stream, or dual stream rather. So I can't speak for the other two, but I know in North Glengarry, 1 week it's containers, which is plastics, metals, glass, etc. The other is fibers. So people have been trained to split it up. And the mention earlier about the possibility of a weekly recycling and a bi-weekly waste collection. I think that would be a very, very difficult sell, especially going from 8 bags a week to, well, we could start with 8 bags every 2 weeks. But yeah, that's a pretty tough one. Recycling is one thing because it's generally rinsed and not as odoriferous. Waste tends to be a different thing, especially when you get into the summer.
I'd be interested to know how long it took for people to actually, how their behavior, how long it took for them to actually to do that, to have like the fibers, and how much. I'm just interested in. I don't know if there's any study on that in
I would give you an estimate of probably 6 weeks to 2 months max.
That's not bad.
And this was redone a couple of years ago. It used to be, and then it went away, and then it came back. So maybe part of it was that a lot of people were used to it. Okay. But the other trick is they did they did some education stuff in the first few weeks. And then it was, if you mix it, it's not getting picked up. So people learn pretty fast when it's
Okay.
left at the end of the driveway.
Yeah.
Aiden, you were going to say something?
I was just gonna mention, I thought garbage had to go every week just because it smells like it's causes issues and like with rodents and stuff like that if you leave it out for 2 weeks.
Hmm. That's a good point.
That's
Yeah.
that's how it was
Yeah.
in Guelph when I lived there. We had to do garbage weekly just because like that kind of issue.
Might be different rural and yeah, I don't know.
But
But
if
it's
there was
certainly-
a system for organics, it would avoid that, I guess.
It definitely appears to be the standard anyways, in terms of in our area that it's weekly. But you know, the other thing that surprised me was by how many folks have bag tags. And because I was surprised by that there's that many municipalities that are doing that kind of administration when it comes to garbage. And I was also surprised by how like there's lots of exemptions, like on page I think it's page 43 of the document, like they talk about the current levels of service. And you know, like everyone's box except for South Glengarry. South Glengarry just 8 containers, 8 bags. Everyone else has like multiple lines of text about, you know, like, well, there's tags for, you know, 6 for commercial or 4 for farm, or you know, extra bags are at the discretion of the pickup person. I mean, and then there's exemptions you can apply for. Like it's much, people have a much more complicated system than I thought that I imagined.
Oh yeah,
South
8
Glengarry
container
definitely
bags.
looks very simple.
So Stephanie, if I can just jump in,
Yeah.
when we're talking about garbage collection and recycling and what happens in one municipality or another, it's
Yeah.
not that dissimilar than what happens with almost everything, you know, whether it's water, wastewater, recreation, the way we run our finance departments, like everybody's different, even though, you know, we're the same size as Stormont about in terms of population, yet, you know, Mike, you went online and, you know, you see their website's different or their staffing structure is different. The other thing about the moving parts here is that we're talking about a regional waste management study.
Mm-hmm.
The purpose is to try to get everybody on the same page. And then we have the thrown into that is the blue box, which keeps, you know, the timelines keep getting delayed. Now, that being said, we probably are due for a comprehensive review of landfill. And, you know, Chris went to visit, so we talked about, he went to visit South Stormont. You know, they do their own garbage and recycling pickup, and they have 4 trucks. So, you know, you look at the cost of a garbage truck and a recycling truck, and then, you know, with the contractor, as you know, if you live in South Glengarry, what you do is we have breakdowns, and there are times where collection is delayed, and we have to, you know, we rely hopefully on the contractor to send another truck out. So then we'd have to have a backup truck. So there's all these things that we need to keep in mind. It's just not bag limits and blue box, but it's, if we do it internally, it's just not so simple of hire 4 people or 2 people and buy 4 trucks. It's a lot of different things. The last thing I'll stop talking. Stewardship Ontario is they're a nonprofit funded by the businesses that develop that generate the recycled items. So they operate Blue Box and Orange Drop, and so I'm not 100% sure on this, but because of the Blue Box study, what they're doing is going into municipalities, and that's what they've been doing for us, is doing the study on waste. So that's they're a nonprofit that operates, and that's why they were doing the study of in our municipality.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, in terms of what's like some of what the other townships are doing, did anyone, you know, like I think we've shared a few items that we see other people are doing that we find, you know, as members of this committee interesting. Is there anything, other items that folks, you know, the weekly recycling was one of them. Is there anything else there that people caught on to oh, that'd be interesting to have here, or that's a potential upgrade or simplification? Was there anything that caught people's eyes?
Maybe next
Thing,
meeting.
say that again, Angie.
I said maybe I will next meeting. Sorry.
Well, one thing I thought might be handy, and like this might be helpful, is on page 28, which Appendix A. It talks about like the issues and challenges of like the different municipalities, and in terms of like the South Glengarry ones, you know, that might be something that if we look at, we could, you know, see if we have any comment on. So like, for example,
a good table. Yeah.
Yeah. So for South Glengarry, so that's page 28. So on challenges, like they have 4 bullets. There's increasing cost of service, securing future landfill site capacity. Third is diversion seems to be stagnant, would like to improve the rate. And 4th is high use of cover material is utilizing capacity. And certainly those resonated with me. That, you know, I think we do find the cost, I mean, we do see it rising, and it was interesting to see how we compared with others. I mean, we're certainly not the cheapest when it comes to the costs, but you know, the idea that we all know at this committee that landfill capacity is dwindling, or, you know, it's going down quickly. And we know also that, like, in terms of diversion, we're not at the top of the list in terms of, you know, being able to do, in terms of achieving good diversion of recycling material. And, you know, so I don't know, is there any other challenge, or anyone have any comments on those items, or any other additional challenges you wanted to add, Mike?
Just a quick question / comment, and maybe for Chris, maybe for Jennifer. The high use of cover material, and I know this has come up before, and if I recall, it's mostly to do with control of wind spread, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right? Just to control blow off and general litter, I guess, from the landfill? Or is it
Just overusing for no reason?
So generally speaking, yeah, you apply, sorry, my dog wants my attention. He's barking in the background. Sorry about that. You apply your cover material, your interim or daily cover material, I should say, after you've spread your waste at the site. So you reduce vermin coming to the site and, you know, making a mess, like your seagulls, your rats, whatever. You reduce your wind-blown debris. So you're correct there. And of course, reduce odors by covering it, so you're not going to be impacting the neighbors that are nearby. But yes, we have been using more interim cover than what we should, in my opinion, and from what I've seen. And you know, we've talked about this with Chris and with Yohan previously about reducing the amount that we are using. There's other options there to, you know, with your interim cover, you can scrape it off daily, you know, before you apply your next lift of waste, and then put it back on. It sort of saves you some space there. And your interim cover is only supposed to be about 15 centimeters thick. So it's not a heck of a lot, but, you know, if you're looking at your lifts, each lift is supposed to be around 60 centimeters to a meter deep. So by a lift, I mean your compacted waste. So that 15 centimeters doesn't sound like a lot, but over a large area where you've got all your waste, that could definitely impact your volume. So there is other options out there for trying to reduce the use of your interim cover, or claw back that space. But, you know, it comes down to costs, of course, and time for removing the cover. And there's other options where you can use, there's a tarp method that you can roll out over top the waste and then roll it back up. It just depends on what's available and what the costs are. And yeah.
Okay, I was just curious, the fact that they actually included it in here as a challenge, I presume it was being used a little heavy-handedly compared to, like you say, it's supposed to be 6. I don't know if it's ending up as a foot or just, it's interesting that they make that a point of to be one of the challenges that specifically for South Glengarry.
Yeah, so what we do when we get the details from the township is we do a ratio comparison of interim cover versus waste that has been brought in compacted. And that tells us your ratio should be like a 4-to-1. And it's been more like a 2 or a 3-to-1.
Okay.
So yes, it is a little bit, we have been using more than what is necessary.
Jennifer, I will ask you as well, did they use you as a resource for this report? Did they come to you for information?
I did not speak to them directly. I think Yoan sent me an email asking me a few questions, but most of the details that are in there are within our annual reports.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Does anyone feel like there's any additional challenges that should be captured? So in terms of improvements, and I think I'm already thinking we should suggest a 4th one. In terms of improvements, there's 3. First one is would like to reduce the current bag limit when new contract starts. Would like to assess the feasibility of in-house collection to reduce costs. And last is would consider expanding leaf and yard waste collection to hamlets, especially if bag limit is reduced. So, I mean, I think one thing that I would suggest again from, I think as a committee, we might suggest considering that, like, there has been, numerous expressions of interest in having weekly recycling. That might be something.
Well, and that, yeah, it goes to your challenge above, right? About diversion seems to be stagnant. Would like to improve the rate. So improvement would just be increasing diversion rate. I mean, that's as simple as, well, I shouldn't say as simple, but adding weekly recycling and educating.
Yeah, I think like to our earlier comment about what can be recyclable and what can't be, like that education piece of us being up to date, us and committee and the resident as residents also being up to date on what can be recycled. It's hard to keep up. So do we want to make that suggestion? Is that might be a suggestion for in the improvement section?
Yeah, I could second that.
Okay. Thank you. So for Chris and Tim, I guess, do you need, is that sufficient just that we mention it this way, or do you want it, do you want us to document any of these things in a more formal manner? Or Crystal, I'm not sure who.
Yeah, I think we have the information, right, Crystal? Yeah, so that's fine. We don't need it in any form, anything more formal than through a committee meeting.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Any others?
I think until they really come out with more information, there's too much that can be added there.
Yeah, I think so. I'm very interested to see phase 3.
Yeah.
I'm very interested to seeing phase 3, and I foresee that we will have, that we'll be able to have, like our input will be, valuable, I think, very much at that next stage.
I gotta say, I'm just really curious to see what they come out with as far as regional recommendations.
Yeah.
It makes sense to me, but of course it's based on, geography and proximities and existing contracts and all kinds of great things. But you got to presume there's a whole lot that can be done through the whole area.
Was there any talk of including the city in this at all, or?
Wouldn't appear so, eh?
No.
I mean,
It's
they are referenced a few times in the report, right? Like they do talk, they certainly acknowledge that they exist.
But is it mostly about the MRF?
Yeah.
Like it's the fact that municipalities use the Cornwall recycling facility.
I mean,
I guess that's why maybe it would make sense to have them included somehow in more of a regional scope, but
One of the things that's interesting about the city that I've looked at a little bit, I'm going to look a little more in, is they took over, they staffed the landfill with their own staff, where they used to contract it all out. Now they've gone back internal, and they found, I think they have more control. That, you know, you've seen them do some social thing, like they're taking things and actually putting them in a spot where people who might be in need, you know, I mean, it sounds maybe not right, but it is actually, you know, a lot of things end up getting thrown out that you know, people can use. And it's a great way to recycle. Not only they can be used again, but for someone that actually needs it. So I think that's something that we gotta you know, I have that on my list to consider, is when you have, it's one thing when you contract out the landfill, you know, with, like in our case with the commissioners, and another when you actually have an employee who's there all the time, who might be working across the department. So for example, the roads department. So but I mean, when you're looking at a city of 40,000 people with the number of business, almost 50,000 people with the number of businesses, it's, yeah.
Yeah, you're referring to that free store, I think they call it, eh? That's
Yeah,
the
that's
container,
right. That's right.
the container that they have at the landfill site, where things that are in reusable condition, by all means, are set aside, which is
But something environmental has become something social.
Absolutely.
Social
There's something
justice.
there as well. There's a term, upcycling. I don't know if people are familiar with it or not, but I suspect there's some people that take advantage of that as well for some upcycling, just, you know, repurposing for something else. That's a good idea. It's a very good idea. You mentioned that, Tim. I had heard about it, and I totally forgotten about that they were doing that. But yeah, it's a great idea.
I'll make a quick plug here then. There's that fantastic Facebook group called Buy Nothing South Glengarry that is super active, and it's fantastic. It's very much about upcycling. It's very much about, you know, I have this. Does anyone else want this? And I've given on it, and I've received as well. And I think it's very similar to the free store. You know, I mean, it's perhaps the accessibility, you know, who's on Facebook, et cetera. It's not the same, obviously, but it's fantastic group, and it's really interesting to see the things that you think might be not useful to anyone, and then people are like, oh no, I'll take that. I can do something with it.
I got rid of several things today on that site.
Awesome.
I'll have to take a look.
Oh no, it's great. There might,
Someone's trash is somebody else's treasure.
exactly. Okay. Well, I don't know if anyone else has any other comments on this report, or Tim or Chris, or if there's any other like feedback you want at this stage, recognizing that like we've said a few times, that this report right now is really just like a presentation of the current state of affairs. If there's anything else that you're looking for from us as a committee at this stage. No.
Honestly, I'm looking forward to the county council meeting, where we get an update on that end. And I'll say that the lower tier, just so everyone knows, the lower tier CAOs have made a point recently of meeting regularly, just about a number of things that we could look at. When, I mean, we're not as far along as shared service, but learning from one another, what's going well. COVID has kind of brought that on, because anytime something changes, we want to know what's going on. But we have a lot to learn from each other, and the report's a good example that not everybody's doing the same thing, but we could take maybe the good from every other municipality or what they've learned and use that. So.
Exactly. Okay. So unless anyone else wants to add anything else about the report, we could move ahead and I guess, essentially conclude, and we'll come up with a date for our next meeting. So in terms of like milestones that are coming up, like food cyclers presenting to council on March 15th. The waste composition study sounds like it'll be done sometime mid-March. This presentation to county council on the regional waste management, I think that was end of March. So, you know, certainly not in March. So I don't know, what do we you know, do we want to do 6 weeks? Do we want to do 2 months? I mean, I reckon like we want to have something to discuss, but by the same token, I like to see each other regularly so that we don't necessarily lose, you know, some of the good momentum that we're starting to build as a group.
Why don't we?
As long as I have at least 2 weeks to catch up on readings, then I'm good with that.
Why don't we shoot for the second or third week of April, and that way we're going about 6 weeks. Ideally, we'd have a bit of time for some of the information from the county council meeting to be coalesced into something, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And time for us to read whatever is sent.
Yeah, I'm just looking.
There's Easter, so don't.
Yeah, that's why I'm looking. It's
Yeah.
the first. It's the first Monday in April. It's the 5th, so I'm looking at the week of either the 12th to the 16th or the 19th to the 23rd.
Week of the 19th.
Yeah, week of the 12th or the 19th, either or. The week of the 19th might be better.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now Tuesday nights or Tuesdays at 5:30. That was generally good.
I'm good. I'm good
Yeah.
anytime. Starting next week, I can. Yeah, I'm flexible starting next week.
Okay. So did we want Tuesday, April 20th
Can work.
That works for me.
at 5:30? So does that work from a staff perspective?
I know Mike had said 5 last time, but I could only do 5:30, but I can do 5 now if that's better for everybody else.
I was just going to mention that. Yeah. Is everybody good with 5?
Yeah.
Colleen, is that okay?
Yeah,
or
and
is
it
that too early?
looks, I think it looks good for our calendars as well.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. All righty. All righty. Well, I guess on that point, then we'll adjourn. So if I think I still haven't figured out if we need someone to move.
Yeah.
and
Motion
second
to adjourn. Yes.
You need a motion. You don't need a second.
Okay.
You don't need a second? Oh.
Not to adjourn is my understanding.
Okay.
I get confused sometimes with which what are the bylaws for which committees. So we're adjourning at 6:45.
Okay. Stephanie motions to adjourn.
I can say at the call of the chair, we're adjourning.
Sorry. Yes,
Kelly's
chair.
here. I should ask Kelly. She's with us now. Kelly, do we need a mover and a seconder when it comes to adjourning?
Oh, so my rule of thumb with committees is you treat it the same way you would a council meeting. I don't know whether you need a seconder on a motion to adjourn. That's a new one to me, but you do need a motion regardless.
Yeah. I would think you need a second because in case somebody's like,
Yeah,
wants to continue and say, no, we're not done.
typically with any motion, you usually need a seconder to put it on the table, but I don't know if there's maybe something unique with that one, Mike. I'll have to look into that one with my Roberts rules.
All right. Well, so it looked like Mike, he was first and then moved it and then Angie seconded it and we're all in favor, right? Yes.
Sure.
Thank you.
Better to have more than not enough.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, thank you all very much. And we'll see each other all on April 20th at 5 p.m. And we will be sure to make sure that everyone on the committee learns about the meeting for county council so that if you're available, either you can listen live or that I'm assuming it'll be recorded as well if folks can't catch it in the moment. Okay.
Perfect.
Thanks.
Okay, good night all.
Have a
Before
good
you
night,
go,
everybody.
Night,
before you
everybody.
go, Crystal, I just want to talk to Crystal. Sorry, before It's like, no, we can all go. I just have a question.
Keep in mind, you're still being recorded.
I know, that's what I meant. After we're